I'm Tracy Cunningham, co-owner of Mesh Salon in Beverly Hills. My celebrity clients are world-renowned for their beautiful hair and color. In this series, I'm going to share with you my trade secrets, step-by-step methods, which I use on my own celebrity clients every day, and that you can use on your clients to give them the glamorous look of Hollywood. The ombre is really popular right now.
Well, how did you first come up with it?
Well, Lily's always had natural highlights in her hair, but when she went in for a job, one time they dyed her hair really dark. So she came back to me and said, you have to recreate my hair.
Like make it lighter again?
Yeah, she always had natural, beachy highlights in her hair ever since she was a little girl.
So you just doing Lily's hair that one time created this whole technique that just spread around the world?
It was amazing.
How would you start to create the Lily Aldridge look within
Well, I
Stephanie's
highlight
hair?
from underneath, which I'll show you. Let's get started. I use a low volume, like a 10 volume. Stephanie, first of all, has virgin hair, which is great.
So there's no
we're gonna
color
use a
on the
low
hair.
volume because we don't want the hair to get too light, but we do want it to get light here. So we're gonna highlight it in foils here, and then we're gonna balayage the ends.
So the foils in here, you're gonna mix like a very weak lightening product.
Yes.
And then here on the ends, you'll mix a stronger lightening product.
Yes. Let's get started.
Good. That's good.
Okay, so I am starting off with highlighting in foils, 10 volume, and on the ends I will be using 40.
So in here is a weaker lightening product, and on the ends it's a stronger lightening product.
Yes. You first want to start off by highlighting underneath, because most of the color comes from underneath in an ombre. And you want to do fine.
So really small strands.
Yes. You don't want a big chunky highlight. Another thing you want to ask your clients is make sure you know what they've done to their hair. If they're a natural brunette, you could come in and think that they're just a natural brunette. You don't know that they were blonde maybe last summer. So you want to ask, you want to know the history of the hair, especially when you're going to be putting something stronger on the ends. You don't want to break off
hair that's already been chemically treated.
Right. You don't want to overlap. You want to know. So maybe you could lower the volume that you're doing.
So use like a weaker lightening process if the hair was previously blonde.
Right. And you can also do a test strand. If you don't know where, you can just go from underneath and see how it lifts.
Right.
And if I think that the hair is going to be hard to lift, I might use a stronger highlight formula in the foils.
Right.
To lift the artificial hair.
Because dark tint on top of dark hair takes longer to lighten.
Yes, and virgin hair is so much easier. Stephanie's hair is virgin, so we're just using 10 volume.
Something weak.
Yes.
Okay.
You want to make it look as if it could have happened naturally in the sun. I know nowadays that, they're doing very extreme versions of ombre, but I like a more natural version.
What I've seen is when it looks unnatural, the ombre looks unnatural, the pieces that they have, woven to go in a foil, the pieces are too large.
I also don't think that they use foils. I think that they just tip out the ends. And you definitely want a lot more foils underneath than you do on the top. Unless the person's hair is very dark, you might want to do an even finer weave and do more foils.
Now you mentioned that there should be more foils in the back when you're doing an ombre on a brunette. Why is that?
Yes, because you want the color coming in from underneath. And when her hair comes forward, you don't want it to just be a sheet of white here and then nothing coming in from underneath. You want it to look really natural.
So that the back lightened pieces coordinates with the front lightened pieces.
Yes, it should all marry well together. Before Lily really came out with her dark hair highlighted, I feel like brunettes would always get too light. They would go in for highlight for the first time, and it would be very subtle, and then every time they came in, they'd get lighter, lighter, and lighter.
And then you have a brunette that is resembling a blonde.
Right, and always looking very stripy as well.
And not natural.
No, not natural at all. What we're doing is we're really just lifting up all the hair and making it a little lighter, like giving it a little lip. It feels like we're backlighting it, you know, with a little fine little highlight, we're just backlighting it. And when somebody stands behind the light, when they look backlit, and a brunette hands you a picture and says, I want my hair to look like that, this is kind of the effect that we're giving them. Now I'm going to start balayaging the ends. Now that I've just highlighted the whole underneath of her head, the whole back of the hair, this is, to me, the most important part of the ombre, because this is what creates the whole underneath vibe and look. Now I'm going to start balayaging her ends.
And that means you're going to paint on the hair?
Yes, it means to paint. And the paint is 40 volume, and I've chosen a blue bleach to eliminate any brassiness. You want to use a smaller brush. It's the most important, choosing which size brush, because you want to be able to paint and handle the brush. I like to hold the hair taut.
The smaller brush looks like it gives you more control as far as placement, where you paint the lighter pieces.
Yes. If I used a bigger brush, I wouldn't be able to be in control like this. Now I am balayaging the ends of her hair to look natural and beachy. I like to hold the hair taut.
Now this is what you were talking about earlier, Tracy, when you meant that a little child running around the beach all day in the sun, this is what the sun would naturally do to that person's hair.
Yes. Then I put the plastic over it so this doesn't dry out and it's able to retain the heat and lift. And I can also, I like watching it. I like being able to watch it. I do, however, use foils sometimes with this technique, but today, because her hair is virgin, I'm going to use the plastic.
So Tracy, if somebody did not use plastic and the product dried out, that would stop the lightening process.
It would. These underneath corners are really important to me. This whole back area is really important for the ombre. I think it's the most important part of the ombre.
Tracy, exactly what is dip dyed, and why do people want to avoid something that looks dip dyed?
Well, it just looks very two-toned. Like you can almost see the line, you know, and it doesn't flow naturally. It couldn't be created in nature. I don't feel like anybody really created the ombre. I feel like God did. It's a natural hair color that you see on kids every day. If you're a colorist and you pay attention to natural hair and how natural hair grows out of the head, you know, this is the technique. This is the technique. If we highlight hair and we just highlight it, it could look stripy and look, you know, and look like there are strings in your hair, where this gives it a more natural flow when you tip out the ends.
Well, I'm noticing Stephanie's hair is virgin, and it is a lot darker in the crown, and her ends are naturally already a little bit lighter.
Yes, and we still want to keep it dark at the crown. We will go over it and darken it up. Now I'm going to turn her around so we can see this. And from underneath, and see, I'm not taking away all her natural hair color. I'm just holding it so I'm painting the strands in a way that looks very natural. Holding it tight. Do you see that kind of like a V effect where it all marries into each other? So she keeps her natural in here, and then on the ends I make it a little bit lighter.
You're painting the outside of the hair with what you're painting, and you're not necessarily painting on the inside of those strands.
Yes. And remember, the underneath is still going to be brown too. And you can also, you don't have to do every foil. In between every foil, you can even skip a foil, like I'm doing right now. See, we just did the underneath.
Did this here.
We just did that. Now I'm leaving these pieces, and I'm gonna, just so we don't get too solid, You know, I'd rather do less is more, and the client could come back and say, you know, I think I'm ready for a little bit more on the ends. And you do not have to go through the whole process. You can just tip out the ends after you blow it dry and check it out. You definitely want a good flow. You want it natural. You don't want the bleeds. That's why I like to use the plastics, because, you know, I don't like to see the bleeds. Okay, so now that we're finished with the highlights, remember where we started. We started here in the back. So underneath, we started with the foils here in the back, and then we went up, and then we started balayaging. Now you can see with the plastics, this is why I love the plastics, because you can see what the color is and how it's developing. It's looking really great. So I would start diffusing here to catch this up with this right here. The heat expedites the process and accelerates it and because we have the plastic on, it's not going to dry out.
So it speeds up the lightening process.
Speed up the lightening. Now, Stephanie's hair has been rinsed. Her hair has lightened up really nicely. So I'm just going to towel it dry, because I like putting the base on over it while it's wet. And I have tried it. I have tried doing the ombre look on dry hair, and I feel like you can see the line, it's splotchy. I like doing it with wet hair. What I'm using is, I'm using an ammonia-free color. I'm actually doing a whole tube of 6 with a 1/4 for her base, and for around the hairline, I'm doing 7. Earlier I showed you that her hairline naturally is lighter, but I do want to deepen this up. So this is a level 7 that I'm putting on, ammonia-free hair color, and I'm doing it on damp hair. One of the requests that I've always gotten with brunettes is, I don't want stripy hair, but a highlight is a stripe. So I've always tried to mellow out the color with either a gloss or a permanent care, you know, a color over it, because it gives it a more natural look. See what we're doing? We're softening the highlight at the root. We're softening the highlight at the root. We're making the root rooty, which gives it that ombre look. If you were to start the highlights down here and not put any highlights up here and darken the root, you would have to come in more often. When you're as dark as Stephanie, you want to leave it on for 20 minutes because you don't want to see stripes. Stephanie's hair color has been on for about 15 minutes now, and now to give it that ombre effect, just to make sure that it doesn't look so straight across, I'm just gonna go in with my gloves and I'm just gonna marrying it through, which gives it that ombre effect. So this is it. What do you think of your hair?
I absolutely love it. It's exactly what I wanted.
It's so beautiful.
It's just like
you see it all the way around.
Yeah, I love it. Perfect.
What do you think, Tile?
I love it. It's earthy, it's golden, it's sand, it's natural, it's low maintenance. I mean, who wouldn't want this?
Hi, Sierra. How are you?
Hi, good.
So you're tired of being
Super blonde.
super one
yeah,
processing
I want more
blonde.
depth.
All right, so we are going to low light it, tip it out. There's still a few pieces that I think could be a little bit lighter, framing her face. And as long as we get this a little more multi-dimensional, we will at the end deepen up her base. But first we're gonna do this. We have to be really careful with the ombre look with fringe. Bangs always create a bit of a problem. Ombre is not my favorite look on bangs, but it can be done. All right, so we're gonna start off by low lighting her hair. She recently had her hair highlighted and it's really a little too blonde for her taste. So we're gonna just deepen it up and give her a more natural look, which is ombre. When you're doing low lights on super blonde hair, you wanna make sure you look and see where the placement is and where your hair is gonna fall. I'm looking at the hair. This is gonna be my first low light. So I'm looking at how that's falling and how this is gonna fall. So I think that's pretty good. You don't want to take too thick of a section. And on this one, I'm using a level 7 with a little bit of gold. And then on the ends here, I'm using a gold, a level 8 gold and a level 8 neutral, half and half. So I've ombreed it by using a level 7 going into a level 8, kind of leaving this little piece out. You want to make sure when you're doing a low light, if they're blonde, definitely use a gold so you don't get the green. You don't want green, you don't want ashy. And it's happened to everyone, I know it has. When I'm low lighting, I like to use an ammonia-free hair color, because you really just want to deposit the color. You don't want it to lift. So this, remember, is 3/4 7 neutral with a half of 7 gold. And this one is 8 neutral and 8 gold, equal parts, where I'm ombreing it onto the end, where this is 7, goes into 8, goes into light ends. So when you're adding low lights, you want to see where the hair falls. I can already see here that this layer stops about here. That's the top layer. So it's very smart for me to use the dark going into the light and leaving some of the ends out, because I'll be able to create the depth here and leaving out the ends, which will create a really natural beachy look, what she's going for. I'm remembering where that top layer is. It's gonna hit about here, so I definitely wanna leave some of the blonde out here. Make sure you get in underneath. So now we're almost finished, and we're creating some depth. We're creating dimension in her hair, because you can't just get an ombre effect by rooting the hair, by just putting a base at the root. You've got to add some dimension to it, and that's what we're doing right now.
Preview.
ShockwaveSound.com.
Preview.
Now that I've just low lighted her whole head, I want to make sure that I don't low light where she parts her hair. So she parts in the middle. My last foil is going to be off to the side. Yeehaw.
So what's the processing time for this?
20 minutes.
20 minutes at room temperature? Yes.
All right, so now her hair is all low lighted. It's all low lights. And afterwards, I'm gonna rinse her, put her base on, root it out, and then that's gonna give it the ombre effect. We're just using the already blonde hair that she has, because she's quite blonde, so that works perfectly, so we don't have to add that. Now we're just kind of recreating a natural look. All right, so now I am using 3/4 7 of an ammonia-free base again, a base color. I'm using a level 7 with 1/4 7 gold, because I don't want the highlights to appear ashy. I'm just rooting this. I'm probably gonna keep this on for about 5 minutes. And I'm just trying to take down the existing highlights. They just looked a little too stripy. And this is one of the problems that we face as hairdressers. When a client comes to us, it's a little over processed and wants to change, wants to have a little bit more depth. These are our options. You don't have to go in and do too much. I'm actually using a level 9 with 20 volume.
Okay.
to lift, because I do want her hairline to be light. I don't want her hairline to be dark. It doesn't matter what color the person is. It doesn't matter what level the person is. They are always going to have a lighter hairline in nature. That's the way God created it, and I'm not recreating that. If you always think about how things should happen in nature, you're usually going to be batting 1,000. If you try to recreate something, sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't, but just always try to mimic nature in whatever you do. All right, so there's the hairline. I'm going in with my level 9 with 20 volume. Keeping.
So how long is this going to process?
This is going to process for 5 minutes.
5 minutes.
Yep, under the spinner. Open up the cuticle and allow it to go in. We don't want it on too long and make it too dark. We just want to get it in there. So 5 minutes.
And so Tracy, what's the purpose of us doing low lights on Alyssa?
Well, Alyssa, she doesn't have virgin hair, and she does have highlights. I just want to give her a richer look.
So ombre, but a little bit richer form of
Yes.
an ombre.
Yes. When I'm using many different colors, I like to use many different colored bowls so I know what's going on.
So Tracy, for Alyssa, what strength of lightning formula are we using for her highlights in the foil?
We are using 10 volume.
So again, a weak formula.
Yes. Once they're in the foil packet, the temperature from her head is going to heat these foils up.
And that accelerates the lightning process.
Yes.
So the product doesn't need to be overly strong.
It doesn't need to be, and I don't want her highlights getting white.
Right.
Because Alyssa doesn't want to be so light, I am going to keep, she has a lot of natural, beautiful brown hair here where it's not too overly highlighted. I'm just going to add a few balayage pieces. I don't want to use the foils and over highlight her hair, so I'm just balayaging. I'm keeping it taut. I'm going to do that V that we did before. And I'm not going up too high. I'm keeping them all about the same level. And again, I like working with this brush. It gives me more control. If you have a large section like this, separate the sections. I'll take this section first. I can see here she's already had color done down below. So when I'm watching it process, I'm going to watch those ends a little bit more than I would normal virgin hair.
So they're likely to lighten quicker.
They will lighten quicker because they're already lighter.
Preview.
And again, I'm leaving a lot of dark in between and I'm balayaging. Great. And when you put the plastic on, sometimes if the hair is long, you want to put the plastic at a diagonal. So you don't have to use two plastics. One more. So because her hair was already lightened before, we're going in and we're doing every other foil, a highlight, a low light, and balayage on the ends. Highlight, low light, balayage.
And then on Alyssa, we're not tampering with her natural base at all, are we?
Because her hair is already highlighted not that long ago, we are just low lighting and balayaging her hair, which will give it the same effect. We don't need to go through the whole process of highlighting it. It's more important that we low light it to get that multi-dimensional ombre look. And right now I am doing a level 6 here, level 6 neutral, ammonia-free color. And here at the bottom, I'm putting 7 neutral with 7 gold, half and half. And I am leaving a little bit of her ends out. And then balayaging in between.
So what are we using on her to bring it down at the base?
We are using half 5 neutral and half 6 neutral. Just to deepen up her base a little, you know, like a shade. It'll make her feel like she has a little depth, but will also make her feel as if she's not as dark as that, the picture that she didn't think that she could keep up.
Right.